Might be wondering, how do I actually craft an invitation that people say yes to? Now, just like with any great party, the first step is making an excellent invitation. We're not going to just say, hey, come along to my party. We want to kind of do more than that. And in chiropractic, it's the same. If your invitation doesn't connect with what truly matters to the person, they're not going to be interested. Not because they don't need the care, this is important, okay, but because you haven't made it relevant to them. So friend, here's the challenge for you this week. Take one patient interaction, or maybe more, and shift your mindset from selling to inviting. Notice how it changes your confidence, your energy, and most importantly, watch the response of the practice member in front of you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, we're going to tackle a big one. We're going to be talking all about sales. Sometimes this is a dirty word, particularly in chiropractic. More specifically, why so many chiropractors feel uncomfortable with the idea of selling chiropractic. And I'm going to talk to you through some strategies that'll help you shift your mindset so you never feel like you have to sell chiropractic again. Now, for a lot of chiropractors, and myself included, particularly in the early days, sales feels pushy, it feels manipulative, and it feels downright uncomfortable, okay? You don't want to have to be convincing patients to start chiropractic, to stay with chiropractic care, and you really shouldn't have to. But here's the thing. Helping people requires getting them to say yes. And if we're not careful, our discomfort with sales can hold us back from making the impact that we want. It holds us back from changing lives. It holds us back from growing our practice. So instead of thinking about sales, I want you to think about something that feels completely different, and that is making invitations. Think about it. When we invite a friend to a party, you're not pressuring them to come. You're not convincing them that they need to be there. You're just saying, hey, I think this is something that you'll enjoy and I'd love for you to be a part of it. And if they say no, it's no big deal. You're not going to take it personally. You're not going to question whether you should ever invite somebody ever again. You're not going to question whether parties work or those sorts of things as well. You're just going to move on and just keep making invitations. When we shift from selling chiropractic to inviting people to experience chiropractic and inviting them to what it can do for them, literally everything changes. It's no longer about trying to get somebody to do something. It's about offering them an opportunity. This is what we need to think about. We're giving somebody an opportunity. And this, for many of us, feels a whole lot better. Now, here's the really interesting part along this. When you stop thinking of patient conversations as sales and you start thinking of them as invitation, it completely changes your energy, okay? And that's going to directly affect your results. And I've seen this with many clients inside of Community Influencer, okay? First of all, what it does is in many cases, it removes desperation. So when we think of sales, we often think of pressure, needing people to sign up. Now, that energy can often feel heavy, and patients are going to pick up on it. Remember, we have really sophisticated radars that can pick up on these things even when we're not listening to the words. But when you're inviting, there's no pressure, okay? You're just extending an opportunity. This is what I want you to think about, extending an opportunity. If they say yes, then great. And if not, that's okay too. We're going to keep on inviting. Second, it has a great impact on our confidence. It makes us more confident, okay? If you had to walk up to a stranger and sell them on something, okay, it would be really difficult. But if you walked up to a stranger and you were telling them about an amazing party and inviting them to that, maybe you'd feel excited. You'd probably feel a bit awkward. We're not often inviting people, complete strangers as well. But you get this idea that the shift towards inviting really makes a difference to our confidence. Third, it makes the patient conversations a whole bunch more enjoyable as well. If you're dreading the sales part of practice, your patients are going to feel that energy, okay? But if you're excited about inviting them to something valuable, your enthusiasm is going to become contagious, okay? They're not going to feel pressured. They'll feel like they're being welcomed into something really special. This is the feeling that we want to have our patients have at the report of findings, at their progress exams, at every adjustment when we're inviting them to come back for another appointment. So in today's episode, we're going to break down what is it that makes a great invitation, what gets people to say yes, and how do we make this process effortless, and how do we create an experience that makes people want to stay as well. So here's what we're going to cover. how to match your invitation with what's important to the patient, how to create FOMO without fear tactics, how to make the idea of saying yes as easy as possible, and how to deliver an experience that makes people want to stay at the party and at your practice. And finally, why you should continue to make invitations even if somebody has said no beforehand, okay? Because when we get this right, your practice is going to feel fun. There's going to flow. There'll be no more convincing, no more pushing. You'll be just inviting people to something amazing, chiropractic. Okay, so let's dive in. So once we've made this shift from selling to inviting, you might be wondering, how do I actually craft an invitation that people say yes to? Now, just like with any great party, the first step is making an excellent invitation. We're not going to just say, hey, come along to my party. We want to kind of do more than that. And in chiropractic, it's the same. If your invitation doesn't connect with what truly matters to the person, they're not going to be interested. Not because they don't need the care. This is important, okay? But because you haven't made it relevant to them, okay? So let's bring this to life. I'm not going to come up to you and say, hey, listen, I'm turning 50, come to my party. It's way too vague and it doesn't give you a reason to come along. I want to juice it up much more than that, okay? I want to tailor the invitation to something that might be important to you. So if I know that you really love music, I'm going to tell you about the band that I've got lined up and the amazing music that this guy plays. If I know that you're into food, you can bet that I'm going to tell you about the slow-cooked brisket, the wood-fired pizza, the amazing seafood I'm going to have there too. If I know you're a real social butterfly, I'm going to tell you about the amazing people that are going to be there, okay? And you're going to have a blast catching up with this person and that person, this person. If I know that you're really into your wine, I'm going to tell you about the incredible wines I'm going to be opening that night, okay? Each invitation is to the same party, but the message is going to be crafted towards what excites that specific person. When you invite somebody to chiropractic care, one size does not fit all. If you're just saying, hey, listen, you should come in for regular adjustments, they're not going to feel the emotional connection about why it matters to them. Now, with friends, we often know what excites them because we've spent time with them. But with our patients, we need to make sure that we're asking the right questions. We need to make sure that we're listening deeply. Often our patients are telling us what matters to them, but we haven't listened to them. And this is particularly important during the new patient visit, the report of findings, but ongoing as well. So here's some key questions that you might want to ask in the new patient visit. Beyond just where does it hurt, we want to ask questions that help to identify the bigger health goals and frustrations. So it could be something like this, what's something that you'd love to be able to do more easily when the problem goes? Or what's one area of your health that you feel could be really better? Or when you feel your best, what does that look like for you? They might be saying, look, what does it look like for me as I'm coping really well with the family, I'm on top of things at work, I'm back at the gym, I'm waking up early, all those sorts of things. We could ask a question that says, what's one thing that you're currently limited in doing that you wish you weren't? Okay. Or if you had unlimited energy and vitality, how would your life look different? These sorts of questions, and I'm not suggesting that we ask all of these, but we want to kind of seed these into our conversation. These are going to help you know what's important. What do they really want? What is the emotional problem that sits underneath the pain or challenge that they're having? Now, often in the history, sometimes I didn't have to ask any of these because if we take a good history, if we're really opening up and having the person feel seen and heard, if we're a great active listener, our practice members will share all of these, okay? But even after the new patient visit, we want to continue gathering insights. We want to be listening as they go on because we'll get more information as our relationship continues to deepen. We want to notice, what do they talk about before and after adjustments? We want to pay attention to their hobbies, their career, their family life, their stresses. We want to use previous answers as reference for future visits. You mentioned last time that you loved hiking. How's that going? Okay. Are you feeling more of the focus and energy at work that you were looking for? We're constantly in our invitations relating it to what's important to them. Now we know what's important to them. We can frame chiropractic in a way that connects to their vision of health, connects to their emotional kind of desires as well. Okay, so it could be just something simple like this. If we're talking to a busy parent, we could just say something like this: Jen, I know that you've got a super busy week ahead for you and the kids. Today's adjustment is going to help keep your nervous system working at its best. This will help you show up with energy, patience, and vitality for this week ahead. Okay, we're going to really sell the chiropractic adjustment. This is an invitation to what happens ahead. If we've got the incredibly stressed out professional, our invitation or our language in around is going to be saying something like this: your nervous system helps you respond to and controls how you deal with stress. When it's overloaded, your body's going to be stuck in this fight or flight mode. Today's adjustment is going to help shift you into a more relaxed, stable state, okay? not just surviving your day, but actually getting back to thriving again. We're talking about what's important to them. If we're chatting with a grandparent who wants to stay active as well, in the report of findings, we might say something like this. This adjustment schedule is designed to keep your spine and nervous system clear. It's going to help your body strong and independent. We want to make sure that you're running around with the grandkids for years to come. This is how we connect an invitation into what's important to them. So let's bring it back to the party analogy again. If I'm inviting somebody to my 50th birthday party, I'm not going to just say, hey, come to my party. I'm going to highlight what they would love most, whether it's the music, the food, or the company. And it's the same with chiropractic. We need to stop making our invitations about chiropractic, and instead we need to make about what chiropractic allows them to do and experience. So here's our final takeaway. Make your invitations relevant to the patients, and instead of assuming what your patient needs, ask, listen, and craft your invitations so that they match their values. All right, let's move on to the second ingredient of a great invitation, and that is FOMO, okay? This is about what we want to have them moving away from. So at this point, we've helped our patients see why they'd want to come to the chiropractic party, but sometimes excitement alone isn't enough to get somebody to commit. Now, there are two great motivators in life. They are pain and pleasure. Now, we've talked about moving towards pleasure. That's the first ingredient. And now we need to talk about moving away from the pain. Now, a word of caution here. We need to do this in a way, okay, that's not designed to scare the pants off our patient. Intent really matters here, okay? This is simply about sharing consequences. We want to highlight what happens if they do nothing, not as a scare tactic, but as an honest, empathic conversation about consequences. It's okay for us to talk about consequences, but intent matters. You know, in the area I used to practice in Port Melbourne, there was another chiropractor not too far away from me who was renowned for his scare tactics. You know, one of his lines that he would say in almost all of his report of findings is, if you don't follow through with the recommendations, you may as well choose the color of your wheelchair. It was just gross. And this stuff doesn't need to happen in order to get people motivated to start care, okay? So if we go back to our analogy with a party here, this is, you know, missing out on last year's event. We've all had regrets from missing out on an amazing party. Maybe you were too tired to go, you didn't think you would miss too much, but the next day everybody was sending out text messages, you were hearing stories of the incredible music, the best food they've ever had, maybe the hilarious stories, those sorts of things that went on, and you started thinking, man, I wish I should have been there. We want to help our patients recognize this same feeling, but hopefully before it happens, to see what they might miss out on if they wait too long to take action on their health to get their spine and nervous system working at its best. Now, again, we can't just simply dive in there and say, hey, listen, if you don't do this, you're going to really regret it. We want to approach this with empathy and curiosity. We want to be asking questions to them, you know, things like this. Hey, if nothing changes, where do you see your health in 6 months from now? Like if we don't get this corrected? Or, you know, my concern is, John, if we continue to just mask the symptoms with a few adjustments here and there rather than correcting the underlying problem, it's going to get trickier and trickier to help in the future. Okay, it's okay for us to say things like this. And again, sometimes we might have a check-in back with patients. Hey, listen, these headaches have been getting consistently worse over the last 3 years. What do you suppose is going to happen if we don't get it sorted this time? You know, you've been bouncing from chiropractor to chiropractor to chiropractor. And again, this isn't about fear. It's about clarity. It's about helping them see that if they do nothing, this is still a choice. And that choice has consequences. That's why they're coming to see us as health practitioners, okay? We have the skill sets. We have the knowledge to do this in a way that's honest, that provides clarity, and is done with empathy as well. So just like missing a great party, they may not realize what they're giving up until it's too late. And our job is to keep this at the front of their mind, okay? Not just in the new patient visit, not just in the report of findings, but ongoing. We want to remind them of the consequences of their choice, both good and bad, okay? So let's bring it back to the party analogy again. You remember how disappointed you were when you missed last year's party. You didn't think it would be a big deal, but the next day you wished you had have been there, okay? That's how many of our patients feel about their health. We don't want them to realize this when it's too late, okay? We want them to see what's possible, okay? Now, here's our final takeaway. This isn't about, and never should be about, using fear. It's about helping people think ahead. If they come to the party, start care, they get to experience more energy, more adaptability, more life, more of what's important to them. If they don't, they may well look back 6 months from now or a year from now and realize what they've missed out. We want to save them from that, okay? Our job is to help them see both possibilities so they can make the best choice for themselves, okay? We're letting them make choice. We're letting them stay in agency. This is not about us babysitting. When we take responsibility for our patients' health, they can never fully choose, okay? This ultimately affects retention long-term because you've made all of the decisions for them as well. Let's move on to ingredient number 3. And this is, when we're having a party, we want to make it really easy for people to RSVP, really easy for them to say yes. So we've helped our patients see the value of coming in and understand also what they'll miss out if they don't. Now, our next step is crucial, and that is making it easy for them to say yes. Now, not so long ago, I was invited along to a wedding of a great friend of mine. Now, I couldn't just kind of say yes to this. On the invitation there, I had to log onto a website. I had to set up an account on the website. I had to verify my email address. Then I had to say yes. Then I had to put in my diary requirements. It was so damn difficult. And if this wasn't a great friend of mine, okay, then I may well have just bugged out and said, this is all too hard, okay? This happens when we make it all too hard for our patients to say yes as well, okay? Now, we do this in many different ways. We have confusing fee structures, too many options, not enough clarity. We ask for too much commitment early on. We ask for a 12-month prepay on day one. There's too many hoops for them to jump through, maybe mandatory workshops. You need to bring a friend or a family member along to this appointment here. We have staff who seem rushed or indifferent. It's a cold front desk experience. We give overwhelming recommendations where we dump too much information on them way too soon as well. If saying yes, I'll get started feels like too much work, people hesitate, or even worse, they will walk away. So we need to make it easy for them to say yes while also staying firm and clear. This is not about, because sometimes I see chiropractors taking this too far and just letting people do whatever they want. Okay, we've got some rules for our party. Okay, we can't just have anybody turning up under any circumstances. We need to let them know when the party is and what the rules of the party are as well. So we want them to say yes, but we need to do this while staying firm and clear. So instead of just saying, hey, let's just see how things go and we'll take it from here, we want to let them know, hey, listen, knowing this is going to take the next 4 to 6 months for us to see some deep, lasting change, let's just start with the first 12 visits and assess things at your progress review. So here we've given them a bigger picture in terms of what's going on, but our commitment at this stage too, compared to 4 to 6 months, that first 12 visits, is palatable. It's easy for them to say yes. We want to have really simple and transparent fees. Okay, too many times I hear chiropractors saying things like, you can pay per visit. We have a 12-pack, a 24-pack. We've got family plans. We've got memberships, insurance options, and we also have a VIP premium program. Okay, it's too much. In our practice, there's 2 ways you can pay per your care. You can pay per visit, the adjustments at $65. What most of our patients do is they buy a block of adjustments, okay, a block of 24, and then I would go on and talk about it, okay? It keeps it straightforward while keeping it clear and confident. It shows them a path to go forwards. We want a supportive front desk experience, okay? We want our front desk greeting them. Hey, Angus, welcome. We're so excited to see you. You're in really great hands. We're looking forward to seeing the changes in you and your family over the next few months, okay? People remember how you make them feel. A warm welcome builds certainty and trust. This is how people should be greeted on their first visit. And every time they come in from there afterwards, it should be with a smile, okay? Use their name often. Connect with them emotionally. Follow on for conversations from their last visit, okay? We want to make sure that we have a solid but not overwhelming commitment, okay? So instead of, hey, listen, you need to book out the next 6 months of your appointments now, let's plan those for you. We might say something like this: to keep you on track, let's book your next 12 visits now so you don't have to worry about scheduling every time. Now, if we need to adjust them along the way, we can do that really effortlessly. But this way, you'll get the days and the times that'll work best for you and allow your body to get into a habit and a routine for your adjustments, okay? Sometimes we ask for too much. Having somebody in that stage on day 1 or day 3 have to plan out the next 12 months of their life, I couldn't do that now. It's too much. We want to remove friction, but we also want to maintain structure and certainty, okay? Again, let's come back to the party analogy again. If I were to invite you to my party, I don't want you jumping through hoop after hoop after hoop to say yes. I want you to be able to say, yes, I'll be there. And it should feel the same way when someone starts chiropractic. If we make it easy for them, they're far more likely to commit with confidence, okay? So final takeaway. Feeling yes should be simple, clear, and supportive. We want to have a clear first step. We want to make it easy for them to understand. We want to create a warm, confident patient experience, and we want to remove unnecessary friction, okay? Because once they commit, they'll be really, really glad that they did. onto ingredient number 4, and that is the right atmosphere and vibe. Now, getting patients to say yes and starting care is one thing. Keeping them engaged and committed is another. So like throwing a party, the music, the food, and the company, if it doesn't live up to all the hype, then people are going to start making excuses to leave early. Now, as chiropractors, we often do a really great job front-loading our value, okay? We spend tons of time educating on the reported findings, the new patient visit. We make a compelling case for why they should start care, but once the patient says yes, then things taper off, okay? We're not role-playing the perfect adjustment visit. We're not role-playing the perfect 20th adjustment. We're not working on our progress exams the same way that we would work on our reported findings. And if we want patients to stay engaged, excited, and committed, we need to deliver on the promise we just made, okay? So imagine that you'd finally RSVP'd to a party, you showed up there, but then, okay, the music was terrible or not what was promised. The food was cold or absent altogether there. The host was way too busy to talk to you and you weren't even acknowledged that you arrived there and you felt like just another guest, not someone that they were excited to see. At this point, you're going to be looking for a polite excuse to leave, or maybe you're just going to ghost the party as well. This is what happens when chiropractic practices don't create the right atmosphere for ongoing care, okay? Patients say yes, but they need to stay valued. They need to stay connected and engaged, okay? Or they will look for a reason to leave, okay? Now, when I think about the party experience, the real party experience in our practices is the adjustment visit, okay? Yes, the new patient is important, the reported finding visit is important, but most of our value all happens in the adjustment visit, okay? If we do this, if this experience is strong, patients will naturally want to stay. So here's some tips to help you with the vibe, the party vibe of your practice. The first is we want to make our patients feel seen and heard on every visit. It's literally a foundational human need is for us to feel seen and heard. So instead of barely making eye contact with them, adjusting them and moving them on, use their name. Hey, it's great to see you. How's that flexibility through your lower back feeling since our last adjustment, okay? Now, even in a high volume practice, 5 seconds is all it takes to take a moment of connection, okay? We used to see comparatively a high volume number of people. You know, when we were seeing 450 people a week, our retention was phenomenal because we really worked hard at making sure our patients felt seen and heard, okay? The 1 to 3 minute adjustment didn't feel like a 1 to 3 minute adjustment. They didn't feel rushed. They didn't feel like a number because from the moment they stepped in our practice, they knew they were valued, okay? I wanted to look for an opportunity to connect emotionally every visit, okay? So rather than it being a purely mechanical patient in, patient out, I might say something like this. Last time you mentioned that you were struggling with energy in the afternoons. Have you noticed any changes yet? When you can continue or remember a conversation that was happening from beforehand, it reinforces that you listened, that you cared, that they matter as well, okay? Show empathy. Be fully present. We don't want to be distracted. We don't want rushed explanations. You know, again, we want to check in if somebody's having a health reset. I'm sorry to hear that you had a rough weekend with your headaches. I know it's frustrating when progress feels slow, but you're doing all the right things. Hang in there. I know we're close, okay? Too often we go into these conversations about symptoms don't matter and, you know, it's not why we're here, all those sorts of things that we don't connect with a person. And in these situations, our patients feel like they're brushed off, okay? Keep connecting your care to your priorities. This is not just something that's done in the reported findings. If golf's important to them, if family's important to them, whatever it is, we want to be connecting what we're doing with our adjustments to those things that are important to them. Run on time, okay? Be reliable, okay? Follow through on what you promised. Over-promising in the beginning and then delivering a basic experience is not going to have people want to stay at the party, okay? Again, hey, we're nearing your first review, okay? Let's compare where you are now to where you were and where we need to get to. Patients need to see proof of progress if they're to stay engaged, okay? So creating the right atmosphere and the right vibe makes patients want to stay at the chiropractic party, okay? So make them feel seen and heard. Connect emotionally on every visit, show empathy and be present, link their care to their goals, respect their time and follow through on your promises. When you get this right, retention happens naturally. The invitation is happening on every visit, okay? Every visit has an opportunity for sales/invitation, okay? We're always inviting patients in by delivering value and giving them an experience, a vibe where they want to stay. Now, our fifth and final ingredient here is that we need to keep extending the invitation. Now, just because somebody didn't come to last year's party doesn't mean they don't want to come to this year's. In chiropractic, just because a patient didn't follow through with the recommendations, just because a patient is missing appointments, or just because a patient dropped out of care, doesn't mean they never want to return, okay? We should always be making open, ongoing invitations without judgment or pressure. Maybe they were busy. Maybe they weren't in the mood. Maybe they didn't realize how great it was going to be. There's lots of reasons why someone might not have come along to my 50th birthday party, okay? Does this mean that I'm not going to invite them to next year's party? Of course not, okay? When my 51st birthday rolls around, I'm going to send that invitation out because this year it's likely to be different. And guess what? Maybe this time they say yes, all right? Now, we often assume that if a patient stopped care, didn't book in, or ignored recommendations, they're gone for good. But people's lives changes, okay? Now, maybe they didn't first time round because they didn't understand the value of the care. They weren't ready to commit. They got distracted. Or maybe they got the results they wanted, okay? They're having some cranky headaches. They came in, they had a few adjustments, the headache went away, and they were thrilled with the care. That's all they wanted, okay? This doesn't mean, though, that they're not interested in the future. We should always be making invitations because when the timing is right, they're most likely going to say yes. Now, here's an important factor here. Following up only works if the experience first time round was great. In the early days, the first 5 years of my practice, we never really did reactivations because when somebody left my practice, I felt like I made them so wrong for it. I was so judgmental that here at our practice, if you and your family weren't getting checked once a week and you weren't committing to that for the rest of your life, then I didn't want to look after you. And I turned so many people away from care. It was arrogant. It was about me. It wasn't kind. It was terrible. And so there was no space for me to make an invitation down the track because I behaved so poorly early on. And that is something that we really fixed up. In the last 20 years of my practice after that, the goal with me really is that when you started care with me, you were a patient for life. And sometimes you were active and sometimes you were inactive. And I wanted the doors to be open for you to come back in, okay? So if last year's party was poorly organized, if you had terrible food and the people felt ignored, they're not coming back. In chiropractic terms, okay, if we've got the first ingredients right, if they feel seen, valued, heard, if they had a great experience, then they'll be much more likely to come back when the time is right for them. But if the first visit was consuming, if the commitment felt overwhelming, if the adjustment experience was rushed or impersonal, then they're less likely to want a second invitation, okay? So before worrying about follow-up here, you need to make sure that you've nailed the first 4 ingredients. This is, again, we might need to work on those too. But how do we keep those? Let's assume that you've got those first 4 ingredients all kind of nailed down. How do we keep the invitation open without pressure? Okay, so we want to follow up regularly, okay? And it's not just saying, hey, listen, you didn't follow through the first time and care here. Do you want to come back? I would be regularly sending text messages out to my patients. They would pop into my mind, and a text message might be something like this. Hey, John, Angus here from the chiropractic office. You popped into my mind this morning. How's your shoulder? Are you back in the gym? Is there anything I can do to help? I wanted this to show that I truly cared. I wanted to connect in with them. What was their problem they came in to see me with? What was the emotional thing they wanted to get back in there? Is there anything I can do to help? These messages I was sending multiple of a week, and we'd get into a conversation back and forwards, and lots of these patients would come back in, okay? It was a light, open-ended invitation, making it easy for them to say yes, okay? We want to be constantly keeping our patients in the loop. We want to, those of you that never reach out to patients again are doing them and your practice a real disservice. Maybe it's just a friendly check-in text message like I talked about beforehand. Maybe it's a regular monthly or bi-weekly email update. It's a birthday card. It's a newsletter you send up to them. Maybe you've got a workshop that's on athletic performance and you knew that they were really into that sort of stuff and you wanted to invite them along. Sometimes people just need a gentle nudge, okay? Make re-entry back into your practice judgment-free, okay? Sometimes we want to really hound patients. Why did you stop care? You really should have kept coming. It's interesting because I often notice patients when they came back into my practice, they apologize. I'm so sorry for stopping care. I'm so sorry for dropping out. Things just got so busy. I wanted to say, hey, no need to apologize. It's great that you're here now. It's so lovely to see you. Let's check you and let's get things back on track. I wanted a warm and opening, welcome back in there. And very often, because things were set up right, I could just ask a lot of conversations at this stage, a lot of questions. How often do you think you need to get checked at the moment? They were often really good at choosing this. Rarely did they say too often or too little. But yeah, I think I should get twice a week. And how long do you think we should kind of stick at that schedule for? And sometimes they'd say to me, oh, come on, Angus, you're the doc, you tell me. I'm like, yeah, I will tell you in a moment, but I want to know what you think. And when they can say it out of their own mind, I'm not having to sell it to them, okay? Our practice members should feel welcome back, not guilty for stepping away, for being distracted as well, okay? So again, let's bring it back to the party analogy for one last time. If you had a friend that didn't come to last year's party, don't hold a grudge, okay? Don't assume they'll never want to celebrate again. When this year's party comes around, send the invite because maybe this time the timing is right for them. But here's the thing. Remember, this only works if the party was worth coming back to, okay? Same with chiropractic. If we did a great job first time round, if we made them feel valued and respected, then they're going to want to say yes in the future, okay? A no today is not a no forever, okay? So always be following up without pressure, stay in touch, even casually, and make it really easy for them to return because when the timing is right, you want to be the person that they say yes to. All right, let's wrap all of this up. We started by shifting the idea from sales because most chiropractors, again, myself included in the early days, feel sales is pushy, it's uncomfortable, it just feels awkward, okay? But when we reframe it and we simply start making invitations, everything can change. There's no pressure, there's no convincing. It's simply about giving people the opportunity to say yes to something that could and very often does change their lives, okay? And just like inviting somebody to a party, a great chiropractic invitation has 5 key ingredients. The first is we want to match your invitation to what matters to them. If they love music, tell them about the band. If it's about energy and food, then share that with them, okay? If our patients are kind of all about golf and longevity, then we want to match our care to that, okay? The second is create FOMO, but not with the fear tactics, but help them see what's at stake if they do nothing. What are the consequences, okay? Because just like missing out on last year's party, they might not realize what they're giving up until it's too late. Third is make it easy for them to say yes. If booking care seems confusing, if it's overwhelming, they'll hesitate, okay? Keep it clear, structured, tell them what to do, but don't make it too complicated. Fourth, deliver an experience that makes them want to stay. This is about the vibe of your party. If the party doesn't live up to the hype, people will leave early. This is your retention. And then finally, always keep making invitations. Just because somebody said no doesn't mean that they won't say yes in the future. Keep your doors open. So friend, here's the challenge for you this week. Take one patient interaction, or maybe more, and shift your mindset from selling to inviting. Notice how it changes your confidence, your energy, and most importantly, watch the response of the practice member in front of you. Now, if you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to share it with another chiropractor who struggles with sales, because the more of us who make this shift, the more people that we can help. All right, folks, that's it for today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do. Keep saving lives. I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.